economist as well as a public affairs commentator who has been very vocal about national issues in the news. A very good morning to you, Doctor. It's wonderful to have you in the studio.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You walked in beaming with smiles, all excited about the Port Harcourt Refinery that is back to life 5 years after it's in operation.
Right. I think it's a cheering news to all Nigerians that all what we have been expecting, at least one of them who has come on board. You recall that before removal of fuel subsidy, there are some things government promised that it will happen.
Yes.
But as it is, we are unable to have it then.
Exactly.
But now we are having it. And it's a cheering news because it means a lot to Nigeria. It's restored our confidence. I think it's a plus to President Tinubu, government. I think the confidence of Mele Kyari would have increased by now. That okay, people are having trust gradually, and because over time they've been promising, National Assembly promising, a lot of promise, but now it's here.
I mean, you mentioned that kudos to the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is in fact quite true. But however, some people might argue that the whole Port Harcourt Refinery talk started more aggressively during the regime of former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Even in the words of Bayo Nonuga, he said kudos to President Muhammadu Buhari who kickstarts it. But government is a continuum.
Yes,
so it does not matter that I've seen this government between government of Jonathan and government of Yar'Adua. There's some projects Yar'Adua started, especially dredging.
Yes.
Dredging have gone to some like 40%.
Yes.
And when Jonathan came, it was abandoned. So they can equally decide to do an abandonment and nobody will query them. So when you see a continuous, and that's another thing about Buhari also, all the work of Tinubu, Jonathan was completed by Buhari, which is a good thing. So when we see government is a continuum, it does not matter who starts it, it is who actually monitor it to bring it to life. Monitoring is another issue in project management. Any project management expert will tell you that it is not about starting a project or having the fund. It is about monitoring and control to make sure you achieve what you actually want. So now, sharing news, trucks are now loading at the Port Harcourt Refinery.
Well, this appears to be some sort of sit-up just after Dangote Refinery came into the broader picture of the oil and gas industry in the country as a major competitor. And we know how very notorious the Dangote name is in business. He's a staunch businessman. He's brute and he doesn't mind monopolizing any industry that he goes into. Could that have been the reason why the NNPC sort of sat up and Mele Kyari, engineered the reviving of the PH refinery?
I can tell you that the whole Nigeria refinery, Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna, cannot even give us more than 22 million liters, and we need 60 in a day. So it's a different thing. So I can tell you, there is no NNPC is not a threat to Dangote at all, because Dangote actually came big.
Now the question is not if NNPC Limited is a threat to Dangote. The question is Dangote Refinery a threat to NNPC Limited?
Right. Well, I think it should be the other way around.
Okay.
Right, because Dangote is a private owned company, and you just built it newly. You need to recoup money. You need to get money. You need to do a lot of things. Yes. You need to sustain. It has not even got to stand very well. But the cheering news is that it's to the benefit of the citizen.
Okay, fantastic. It's certainly to the benefit of the citizens. You mentioned that all three refineries combined, Port Harcourt Refinery, Warri Refinery, the Kaduna Refinery, cannot produce up to 20 million barrels
and Dangote can do about 60
or 20 million liters per day, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
And Dangote can do over 60, which is what we need.
We actually need.
But isn't that still a plus to Nigerians? And do you think that maybe in terms of pricing, this could have some sort of effect on how much Nigerians can access and buy petrol in the general market?
Apparently, I can tell you we are still important. Maybe over time, when these other two come on board, we may have the net exporter at a point. But in terms of pricing, I think we always canvass for competition. As an economist, my first advice, I would say, let there be what? Competition, because competition will bring a better pricing for the citizens. So if you ask me, I think we should continue to import. I would say advise we import while NPC produce. Dangote actually produce. Because if you go to a country like America, they have 132 refinery,
Yes.
and they still import. Saudi Arabia have over 4 refinery. They still import. It's just to make sure they balance the market, and actually in the long run have a competitive price, which is the major thing. So if you ask me now, I've been asking every person I get to see that discuss about this new refinery came on board. Please, how much are they selling it?
Well,
Per
no,
liter? Because if you
I
record
don't
that,
think they have mentioned that,
which is very
publicly.
critical. Why are they not bringing it public? That's what we are trying to say. You could see Dangote reduce from 990 to 970. I
Yes.
expect them to come out and say our own is 900,
which is
which
far
will
less,
be
and
competitive.
Nigerians would accept it wholeheartedly.
Exactly. So these are what I want. So you don't declare it. Be that competition that we actually want, because this is much more closer to federal government.
Yes.
NPCL should be big pro government. So that's what we expect, because that is what will bring the competitive price that we expect.
Now, yesterday, I think it was yesterday or on Monday, when Dangote Refinery announced that it had dropped the price of its petrol by about 20 naira,
Right.
that it sells to local oil marketers. It also promised that there is a projection that the price could even go lower than 970 naira.
I want you to remember that PMS,
Yes,
crude oil, is a global commodity.
exactly.
So Dangote that actually reduced, there's a reduction in the price of crude oil globally. That's just what brings about that. It's not competition here.
It's not competition, and
It
it's not philanthropy
No,
as
not
claimed
at
by
all.
Dangote
Not
Refinery.
at all. It's a function of the global market, right? So until we try to do a lot of, and I must also come back and say that Dangote also buy crude oil from Nigeria.
Yes.
And now it's trying to also bring more, because according to the federal government, they said they cannot sell for you need 4 supply in a year. We can only guarantee 2. So Dangote have to source for other 2, and that's the global price.
Yes.
So these are the factors that we need to look at. But by and large, I think we are on the way to actually get it right in the long run, if those 2 other refinery are, because we don't have any news about Warri
Yes.
and Kaduna. And recall, I will also tell you that now competition will come when you have choice of location. Dangote is located in Lagos. We have Kaduna Refinery. So that simply means if Kaduna Refinery is working, people from the core north, the north central, will decide to go buy from that side. If Warri is working, people in that axis, now Port Harcourt is working, people will go to that axis. Dangote will also serve, so that equalization fund, or that equalization price, the price of the distance is also a factor. And that's why you see that you can buy fuel at 1,050 naira in Lagos, but when you come to Abuja, 1,150. When you go to Connaught, 1,200. It's because of the distance that you cover. So it's a factor. So the more you are closer to it, the more the price actually gets reduced. So this is a factor that we must look at. But I must also say this: the Port Harcourt Refinery, remember, PMS is like the highest stage of production.
Yes.
So another challenge we're having is that, recall that even Port Harcourt may need some products, APK, other byproducts, that they will blend together to give them petroleum.
Yes.
So I think maybe LME, petrochemical, all those ones around can now bring in those things for them to blend.
So it's more of a combined effort.
Right, and the Dangote is talking about 200 truck per day. Port Harcourt Refinery, 200 truck. He did not say 200 truck of PMS.
Just 200
trucks. So
and other
products,
PMS could just make about 100 of the entire figure.
Entire figure. So it's not enough that will bring competition to Dangote, but it's enough in terms of supply. Because when we have more supply,
yes,
it's all another one. Because once we can solve the supply side, it's quite funny that Nigeria, who has petroleum product and what have you, you still see people queue to actually buy it, which is not good enough. So we must have enough supply, and by the time you have enough supply, it will gradually affect the price of the commodity. Recall Dangote said during that period that he has about 500 500 million liters in his tank that people need to take. So such thing will actually bring price down.
Let's also digress a little bit, but still staying with the oil and gas industry. Recently, the NNPC Limited also gave Nigerians another good news, talking about the new oil field in I think it's called the Apate oil field or something like that. With that oil field now being active, and they promising that it's already at about 40,000 barrels of crude per day, with a projection of it going up to 60,000 barrels per day. How much of an effect will this have in our oil production in the country? I mean, I know majority of that crude will be used for export, but then still, with Dangote Refinery in the picture, with the Port Harcourt Refinery in the picture, how much of that crude will be channeled towards our own local refining to ensure that that fuel self-sufficiency is actualized?
Well, from the record, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we need about 402 million crude oil barrels to actually satisfy domestic use.
Now, are you talking about monthly, annually, quarterly?
I can't really specify that.
Okay.
But if you look at that, Dangote is there, Port Harcourt Refinery, and you have not mentioned modular refinery. We have a lot of modular refinery too, that if they even work on them more, they can serve local governments. If the local government has modular refinery, it can serve that
just
community.
That
2, 3, 4, 5 local government around will also benefit. So this is another one we must actually, I think it's a good one, and that would have jacked up the proposed liters of crude oil that government projected in the budget.
Yes.
Remember that they say we are doing 1.8 million barrels now, and we're looking at, is it 2.2 or thereabout that they are projecting. I think that one is another thing, and I'm happy that if you look at this, will I call it vandalization level at the
it has stemmed down.
And that's the result we actually see. I think it's a good one. If they can wrap up all these things, it will give us a better way. So they can actually satisfy domestic usage, because no matter what, you have to satisfy them in terms of, because Dangote said they cannot supply enough for him. That is going to go out from news. He has ordered for another one from America, which is not good news for us. Maybe over time. You know why? The beauty of it is that marine cost.
Yeah.
If we can kill marine cost, would have helped Nigeria a lot in terms of forex, because you have to spend money, dollars, to actually import this crude oil. You have to bring it through a lot of
clearance and
that would have reduces, and it would have helped us in terms of forex. So our supply side will be better in terms of forex. We won't have to demand more, as it were.
Well, talking about forex, again, another issue that Nigerians continue to grapple with is the ever growing price of dollar to the naira. Right now, today in the black market is pegged at almost 1,750 naira thereabouts. Now, depending on the day, I think during the weekday it goes higher. On the weekends, it sort of drops. If we continue to do this, I know that in purchasing petroleum products from outside the country, we certainly need dollar. Within the country, with the move made by the president to ensure that Dangote Refinery and other stakeholders within the oil and gas sector get crude in naira, will sort of stem down the effects for us. But in purchasing from outside of Nigeria, which you have advocated that in the meantime it's important to do that, but going forward we should find a way to completely eradicate that. How do we ensure that our naira, which is already at a very weak point, sort of complements the high rate of dollar?
Right, until we solve the structural issues. Then generally, if you look at it now, for a poor man,
yes,
if there's anything that affects poor man directly, is forex, is cost of, because
yes,
it translates to what you actually put, and we cannot have a less cost for PMS until dollars actually comes down.
Yes,
because the more the naira devalue, the more you have to buy more.
Certainly.
You have to cough out more money to buy it. So we must do more, and this has just moved from beyond NNPC now to the side of CBN. How well is CBN handling the monetary policy?
Yes.
Those are other factors we now to see. But certainly, if we have our importation reduced, as it were now, it will definitely reflect in it, because you need forex to buy. If I look at the cost of transportation alone in the PMS business, it takes about 40%, and that's why we must say thank you to Dangote, because as at now we may not see it reflecting now, but over time you see the benefit of it. And now that we have Port Harcourt Refinery, I think there will be less importation of PMS.
Well, Doctor, there's still one more paper on the issue of, the Port Harcourt Refinery that is now back to life that I need to take, and then we'll come back, we'll discuss this, and we move on to yet another big news or big win for Nigerians, talking about the ex-Kogi State Governor who has reported himself to the EFCC. Well, let's pick up the Guardian newspaper and take a look at the headline story there, and of course the Port Harcourt Refinery timeline since 2015 to 2024. Now, the headline story leads with this: cautious optimism over cheaper fuel as Port Harcourt Refinery creates rivalry. NNPC says the refinery will produce straight-run gasoline, that's naphtha, which will thereafter be blended into 1.4 million liters of PMS. It will produce 900,000 liters of kerosene, 1.5 million liters of diesel, and 2.1 million liters of low-pour fuel oil. The daily output therefore stands at 5.9 million liters. By implication, NNPC will only be meeting about 28% of local demand for PMS in the country. 28%, Doctor, just 28% of local demand. Now, of course, beneath that also, you find the Port Harcourt Refinery timeline. In 2015, President Buhari declared that Nigeria would no longer import petroleum products by 2019, and the refinery was key to achieving this goal. In 2017, rehabilitation stalled due to poor funding and bureaucracy. Between 2019 and 2020, a 2020 deadline was set after failure to restore refinery to full capacity, and in 2020, missed deadline. In 2021, federal government approved $1.5 billion for the refinery's rehabilitation with a 2023 deadline, with initial operations set for 2022. In 2022, rehabilitation deadline postponed over supply chain disruptions, delays in the arrival of equipment. In 2023, missed deadline again, but NNPC claims mechanical completion. And finally, in 2024, after multiple deadlines in April, July, and August, NNPC announced operational status of refinery yesterday. Quite a lot of information to digest in there, Doctor.
Right. For me, I think every time I lay my hand on Guardian, I find way of saying well done to the editor, because if you look at them, they always come out with either graphic explanation. That front page is
detailed
always
reportage,
explanatory. So that's a good one. But the major concern is the price. Cautious optimism. Do you think Dangote, Port Harcourt Refinery can actually reduce price? The first question I asked, I've been looking for that answer. How much is Port Harcourt Refinery giving out PMS?
Doctor, just as much as you don't know, I also don't know.
That's
and I think most Nigerians don't know.
And that's why the cautious optimism is there. But for me, if you ask me, I think for the next 6 months, it won't have a significant effect on the price, except the two remaining one actually works. Because that is when you can have that competitive power. For now, it is insignificant for Dangote. And Dangote can actually, is also actually exporting. People from other countries are actually coming to buy.
One major thing that caught my attention while reading out all of the statistics is, provided by the Guardian, is the fact that it says that NNPC will only be meeting about 2.8% of...
28 or 2.8?
2.8 actually. It's 2.8% of local demand for PMS in the country.
So how can that have effect on the price? It can never have effect. The only advantage there is that to help the supply. It at least over time the supply will have an impact.
You yourself rightly pointed out that all our three refineries combined cannot produce 20 million liters
because they're
PMS
obsolete
that we need
and they need blending. So
now, mind you, this is just one refinery that has
that
has come up.
I think combined, all of them, maybe around 8.5 million liter.
8.5 million
So
liters.
yes.
So I guess the Guardian is not wrong by saying 2.5%, which is a very meager
It
amount.
cannot have effect on the pricing. It can only have effect on the supply side. Dangote will still take the, and that's why I said there must be importation, because if you don't import PMS,
Yes.
Dangote will have a field day, and a field day will bring about monopoly. Monopoly will bring about
high
pricing. So until we have that competition, which we are asking for, so, and you can see that it's quite instructive. If you can only do 2.8% of 100, that's quite insignificant.
Well, interestingly, there, Dr. Aliyu, very, very insignificant. But one thing that most people, even though I believe Nigerians will think that now that the refinery is up, there's no point, going back to what is gone. But while reading out, the PH refinery's timeline, one thing that struck me was the constant deadlines that were given, and then the NNPC failed to meet these deadlines. And this year alone, about 3 different deadlines were given in April, in July, and in August.
Right.
And they were only able to actualize it in November.
Right. Let me tell you the first implication of this. When you start something in 2017 or 2018,
yes,
and you're not able to do it, remember the inflationary part of it.
Inflation.
So you must have, there will be variation.
Yes.
So you're supposed to spend 5 billion, it must have increased to 18 to 20 billion. That's a factor. Now, another factor is that it shows inefficiency in the side of our leadership. Because if you want things to happen, and it's not happening, that shows that you are not doing the right thing.
Yes.
Imagine they said we have supply chain disruption. That could only happen during force majeure, which could be act of God.
Yes.
Maybe COVID-19, maybe disruptions. If not for that, if you get a timeline as a government, you should be able to meet up. Perhaps imagine if our refinery has been working since 2019, we won't find ourselves where we are today.
Maybe
Dangote would have
price
just
of
come.
PMS might have either gone
Dangote
down.
would have just come to go and meet a stable market already.
Yes.
And it only add to the supply. He will not now saying is the
Alpha and Omega of the oil and gas industry.
So we are also looking forward to this one from BUA.
Yeah.
BUA is also working on refinery. Maybe by the time it comes on board, it's the private sector. That's when Dangote will see competition.
Yes.
There is no competition now, because 2.8% compared to the remaining about 97.2%. So it's a different thing. So until we have BUA, other modular refinery working, and our 2 remaining Port Harcourt, Kaduna and Warri refinery are working, and I pray. Another thing we should look at.
Yes.
The Port Harcourt refinery is only working at 60%, and we cannot break even until we work at 95%. So we cannot do less than 60%. So anything that happens that we are doing less. So for now, we are not even breaking even. Right.
We just have a
we just have to
that is
up and running. So that's another fact. So until it's worked like 95%, 90 to 95%,
yes,
that's when we can say, okay, now we are breaking. But now it's good because of the supply side.
Well, it's just, in the words of Dr. Aliyu, it's about cautious optimism, and Nigerians shouldn't be too excited yet. There is more work to be done. The second Port Harcourt refinery needs to come up. The Warri refinery needs to come back to life, as well as the Kaduna refinery that needs some sort of revival.
And private sector needs to be encouraged as well.
And the private sector needs to be encouraged as well to come into the picture as major competitors.
The level of effort government supported Dangote with to come on board, they should give the same support to BUA and
other private sector investors.
If the government can do that, you see that too, because it is being said that Dangote always find a way to get the favor of federal government. So let's do that to BUA as well.
Well, I can't say it any better. Dr. Aliyu has tasked the federal government to give the same support that they have given to Dangote refinery, to BUA, and other investors in the oil and gas industry. Now, away from oil and gas, good news for Nigerians as ex-Kogi State Governor, the White Lion, has reported himself to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission yesterday. And reports say that he's due in court today. Our next paper captures this, the Punch newspaper. We'll take a look at the headline story, and we'll have Dr. Aliyu react to some of the comments there. On the headline, alleged 110 billion naira fraud is the catchphrase in red. Bello due in court today as ex-governor reports to EFCC. Now, the strapline on the Punch newspaper reads, ex-governor detained by anti-graft agency faces 16 counts. Well, quite, should I say it's good news for Nigerians? Should I say it's good news? Should I say it's good news for the people of Kogi State who are a bit disgruntled by the activities of the governor when he was sitting as the incumbent in the state?
Depends on the divide. The side of divide.
So what divide do you fall under, Dr. Aliyu?
Well, for this, I think I'm indifferent about it.
Okay, I mean it's still alleged.
Right.
He's still innocent until proven guilty.
But did he turn himself in, or he was arrested?
Well, we saw. I personally saw a picture of Yahya Bello walking into the EFCC reception, flanked by suited men whom I believe are EFCC officials or his security aides.
Well, I want to believe he actually decided to turn himself in because of the court case that he has today. However, you know, the issue of corruption in Nigeria, it's a long issue that even we should say thank you to Obasanjo, who created a lot of anti-graft agency
to at least curb them to some certain level.
I must tell you, I can score them high because, you know, even the fear of them sometimes makes some of them to be cautious. However, I think this shows that no matter how you run, the law is the law. No matter how you are being shielded by your governor, the law is I think let's see how things turns out. But I just believe that it's just for me, I believe he should have turned himself in over time. By now, he would have been facing the cases. So maybe they would have bailed him. Because in the long run now, I can assure you, in the next 2 weeks, he'll be bailed, and he will be going to court and coming out.
Almost as a free man.
Almost as a free man. And if he finds his favor, as it were, he can still find his way and nothing actually happens. But I think it's a good record, and it's another plus for Olukayode for being able to actually make sure he actually came around. But I also want him to be very careful, because I recall earlier there was a time he granted a press release and said he personally called Governor Yabilu that should to report himself, to come to some door and what have you. I think he should be far away from such thing. He should be much more professional. When you want to arrest somebody, please go directly and arrest. You know, if you start rubbing minds or maybe
or showing some sort of favoritism,
it becomes a serious you recall that most states has also taken EFCC to court, including Kogi State, that they don't have local standing to actually be anti-graft in Nigeria, because some people also see them as a tool in the hand of the federal government. These are things that Olukayode must prove. A lot of people are wrong in this case, but I think it's a good news. Let's wait for the court proceeding and see how it actually comes out.
Well, those about 19 states that you mentioned had taken the EFCC to court. Quite a large number of them have withdrawn from the case, and we are still seeing more and more of them withdrawing. You know, almost every now and then.
You know, it's politics. Everybody wants to do what actually favors.
I think at the moment, out of the 19, it's just about 5 or 4 that still have the case.
But I wouldn't want them to withdraw the case.
Why so? Are you against the activities of the EFCC?
It can reoccur some other time. So let's have the final verdict that yes, EFCC has a local standing, then nobody will actually come in the future.
Dr. Aliyu,
right?
You just lauded the efforts of the EFCC,
right? Saying
that kudos to them for such a milestone,
right?
Having to get Yahya Bello to come to them against his court case today,
right?
And on the other hand, you are saying you don't want the other states that have dragged EFCC to court to withdraw the case.
Yes.
Where do you stand? I'm a little bit confused.
Yes, to kill the gap. Sometimes when you see a contestation like that, the best is for the Supreme Court to do interpretation.
Okay.
Yes, EFCC has a right to exist, and that killed the case. But if you say, okay, let us withdraw some other time, that thing can also come about again. Some sort of governor can still come and say, no, you know, it's better we have it final. And once you have final, it will lay the issue on the table,
Yes.
and nobody will contest it again. So I think it's better we get to that level.
I mean, I know that a case in court is not one to actively talk about, but the report here is saying that Yahya Bello is going to face a 16-count charge of 110 billion naira fraud. And we know how the judiciary works in the country. Sometimes somebody takes, siphons or diverts public funds, billions of naira.
When they say 16 count charge,
yes,
110 should be one of it.
Say that again.
When they say 16 count charge,
yes,
the 110 billion should be one of it.
Just one of
it now. That's the meaning now. That means there are 16.
There are 16 other
to answer
cases.
To answer. That's just the meaning. Which I think Yahya Bello lawyer will also go there. At the end of the day, they may even find it to be zero. They may reduce it to be 0. They may reduce it to be 2. They may reduce it to 1 to 5. It depends. So it depends on the argument. And our court is not a moral grant. It's an argument grant where you bring your facts and what figures.
Yes.
And that's why we said it's always good to go to that final arbiter and get the last test. So let's wait for what will happen today. Maybe you will plead guilty or not guilty.
Well, we look forward to the end of today to hear the verdict. Well, not necessarily the verdict, but to find out whether or not the White Lion of Kogi State, ex-governor Yahya Bello, will plead guilty over his alleged 110 billion naira fraud involving activities he had done during his time as governor in the state or not. Well, it's up to the EFCC and it's also up to the courts to decide.
Not even the EFCC in this case now.
Well, EFCC has done its
job now. It's also take it to court of law. And EFCC are not judges as well. So judge is different from EFCC. So EFCC will bring out about their case that you are alleged to have done A, B, and C. And can you prove yourself? That's the courts that will take it over.
Well, let's keep fingers crossed and see what happens. We have just about 5 minutes to wrap up this conversation, Dr. Aliyu. I'll take one more paper on the Daily Times newspaper this morning. Ex-Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has called the Rivers State Governor a Moses, somewhat of a Messiah who is set to restore the glory or lost glory of Rivers State. Now, I'll take the headline story on the Daily Times. Atiku says Governor Fubara is Moses and restorer of Rivers State glory. This is as he condemns violence against women. Now, mind you, the 16 days of activism, against gender-based violence that started on the 25th, that will run all through to 10th December, is still ongoing, and much later on the program today we'll have discussions on that. But back to Atiku's comment about Fubara. We know how very controversial the ex-vice president and the current FCT minister have been within the PDP, and we also know the rift between Fubara and the minister.
Right.
What do you think informed this statement of calling Fubara a messiah of Rivers State? My
enemy is my friend.
Interesting.
Do you get that?
My enemy's enemy is
my friend. That's just what actually played out, and that's how politics seem to be. When you see someone actually trying to defeat your enemy, you have to support that person.
Yes.
That's okay. Let's make sure we defeat the person together, and that's how we can also play. Wike's, that's how we actually.
I mean, they are just playing by his rule, by his rule book.
I think Wike is a very difficult person to offend. He doesn't seem to overlook. You recall that was it Tambua? Was it Secondus? Was it
quite vindictive.
Was it the former chairman of PDP from the Benue? A lot of them. Once you come across him and you are in his bad book, he will deal with you decisively and see that you don't really have. So I think Atiku is trying to play that politics as well. But for me, I expect PDP to rally around Fubara. That's the expectation because it is politics. So I expect all of them to support Fubara at this point because Fubara is actually having it rough and tough. So you need that support from PDP, from people like PDP leaders like Atiku. So Atiku is just playing the game as it's supposed to be in politics.
Well, interestingly, he's just playing the game. But still, when he said that Fubara is a Moses to set to restore River State glory. Has River State lost its glory in any way?
Well, it depends on the divide you are. Even if you ask an APC person in River State, they are not in support of what is happening in the center. Because you cannot be APC and somebody who just crossed is becoming a minister.
Yes.
You know, that's another side you have to look at it from. And as well, for those people that are opposition to Wike, yes, you know, we cannot satisfy everybody. They think, yes, this man has come to restore the glory. And, you know, anything that will whittle down Wike's power in Rivers, most people want it because it's actually using that power.
So you're saying both from the part of the APC, even which is PDP, the opposition, and the PDP faction, yes, of Fubara,
yes,
would want, yes, anything that has to do with bringing...
Ordinarily,
okay,
Fubara should be the leader of the party in the state. But Wike never yielded that opportunity to Fubara. Meanwhile, when Wike was the governor, you don't dare Wike at all.
Because he's the
in
head
control.
Of the state. He's in control.
He's in control. So that's the problem.
Both as a governor and in the party
and
as
that's the problem of party politics. It's because PDP is in disarray. That's why people like Wike will still be taking lead in that state. You know, if PDP is on their own, by now, they could have suspended him from... but it seems he's too big for them. Perhaps maybe he's a friend or a colleague to Damago, the PDP chairman. So it's a very intriguing issue.
No, of course, it's no news, Dr. Aliyu, that Barrister Jenson Wike and Damagum, you know, are in very good terms. So, and that's one of the reasons why Damagum has always been in the picture. He was suspended, reinstated, and I think that's one of the major reasons why the PDP is currently having this crisis. And that is
actually killing the political party. And we want a robust opposition to actually challenge APC. But with the way PDP is going, I hope Labour Party is still struggling. I don't know who the opposition are going to have to actually... Because you recall that APC actually play a serious role of opposition. When you bring out the policy during APC opposition, they will bring a counter solution that we've not seen that from. We only see Atiku speaking, yes, not PDP speaking. In fact, it's long that we see Aliyu Ilias, the spokesperson of the PDP, talking about the policy of this current administration.
Well, in just a few seconds, let me get your take. I know 2027 is still far ahead, but it appears that everybody is already gearing up, suiting up ahead of the general elections. And in the PDP, the much controversial situation is causing loggerheads. Is it Atiku? Is it Nyesom Wike? Who is it going to be for the PDP come 2027?
Well, I will take towards the word of the PDP Board of Trustees, Olabode George. He said that Atiku should go and rest. I think it's quite instructive that over 31 years, yes, he has been in the business of wanted to be the president. Of Nigeria, and he has come closer as vice president. I think by now he should also work around other people, yes, so that they can actually join hands together to give a robust opposition and challenge APC, because APC they seem to be master in what they are doing.
Well, the APC is a master in what they're doing, in the words of Dr. Aliyu Ilias. But Doctor, I must thank you so much. It's been very engaging.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here in the studio with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that has been Dr. Aliyu Ilias, who is a political economist as well as a public affairs commentator, sharing his thoughts on issues of national interest, from the oil and gas industry to issues of corruption and, of course, party politics within the country. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be turning our attention to cases of gender-based violence in the country, marking 16 days of activism against gender-based violence across the